welcome to Dialogue. This year's Boao Forum undoubtedly brings great opportunities for exchanges between Chinese and foreign business people who may not have been able to meet since the outbreak of the pandemic. So what can we expect from the forum? How is the Chinese business environment during the post-pandemic period? And what are the prospects for the country's economic growth as it pursues high-quality development? To find out more, I'm glad to talk with Mr. Yongtu, former Secretary General of the Boao Forum. He's also the chief negotiator for China's admission to the WTO. That's our topic. I'm Xu Qinduo. Mr. Long, well, after 3 years of a pandemic, finally, people at the Boao Forum can meet each other in person. This is a good opportunity for people to exchange their ideas and learn from each other. What can we expect from this year's Boao Forum?
During the last 3 years of COVID pandemic, I participated in many video conferences, which I do not believe that many left a very deep impression for me. And I always feel those video conference, you are missing something. So it's very important to come to a conference face to face with your participants. So I'm a little bit excited this time to participate in this annual conference, even though I participated the Boao Forum from the first session till this without missing a single one. But this time I feel a little bit excited because for 3 years you have not participated in this kind of face-to-face conference. And this year the theme is uncertain world. I believe there are many complicated reasons for uncertainties, but one of the very important reasons is short of communication, short of face-to-face communication. So there is a lot of misunderstanding, misconception, misjudgment, and especially vis-a-vis China. So we are facing a very complicated and severe situation externally, partly because of its 3 years pandemic. In the last 3 years, there's virtually no highest level meeting between important countries, especially between the United States and China. And as my experience in China's WTO accession to WTO, I feel that highest level communication is so important for the negotiators like us. Maybe it took us months and months to try to tackle some issues. But with a session at the highest level, you find everything's easy. That is why I got this kind of excitement when I come to this Boao Forum. I hope that the participants at the Boao Forum could, through this kind of direct communication, you can make up some of the missing part in the past 3 years in terms of understanding, because the misconception, misinterpretation sometimes is worse than something by itself. And so I think, and I hope that there are more and more this kind of conferences in the months to come, and to make short of what we have missed in the past 3 years. Yes. This is what I fully recognize that.
Well, you mentioned the lack of understanding among partners, business partners, for example. In particular, the lack of understanding, of China, of China's development. For example, China, the catchphrase, or one of them, is high level or high quality development from previous high speed development. So tell us your understanding of high quality development. What does it mean? Does it mean you have to have a slower economic growth?
it seems to me that there are two most important criterions. One is whether or not the development will bring benefit to the general public and to the people. And secondly, I believe is of the development, whether the gap between the regions, between the rich and the poor, are narrowed. If after development, the kind of gap expanded, you can hardly say it's a high quality development. So if we understand, if we agree this kind of criterion, we'll see that when you slow down the speed of your development, that does not mean you are not pursue a high quality development. As long as you can bring benefit directly to the people, as long as you can narrow down the difference between the rich and the poor, between the rich areas and the poor areas. People now, as in China, expect a better quality of food, safer food, more blue skies, clean water, accessible medical and education. And all this, you have to make efforts to meet the expectations of the people. And so we cannot sacrifice the environment for a so-called high rate of economic growth. So people now come to understand that. And I even know that in some areas of China, they have established a court of environment. If some factories or some unit violate the rule of environment, they could be punished and sentenced to years of imprisonment. So now we attach quite importance to the environment and many other parts of our development, and this is what we seek for the high quality development.
At the same time, we are talking about global economic recovery and the Chinese economic recovery. One key element is about the private sector. There's a lack of confidence, let's say. People would say over the past 3 years, the private sector was, they suffered significantly during the pandemic. So, one key element to help them is confidence. How can we, help the private sector to boost their confidence?
Yes, how to treat the private sector is a very difficult and long-standing issue in China. During China's WTO accession, we committed to the world community that we have to practice national treatment. That means you have to treat the enterprises, whether it's state-owned, private, or foreign-owned, to treat them the same way. This is called national treatment. But I can tell you that we have not done very well in this aspect. And some of the private sectors still suffering from different level of discrimination. Especially during the pandemics, the priority is focusing on state-owned enterprises. So some of their legitimate rights were neglected. So the important thing, I think, now for boost up the confidence of enterprises is to create a comprehensive and practicable legal system which can ensure their right of property, their basic right of managing their enterprises. And so this is kind of a legal arrangement will give them a sense of safety, give us a sense of ownership. So that is why we believe that after the pandemics, the Chinese government is paying very high, is attaching a very high importance to providing equal treatment to the private sectors, because to some extent they are the vulnerable group of enterprises in the Chinese economy, and especially during the 3 years of pandemics, because of the closed atmosphere, you're not opening up to the world, because a kind of narrow nationalism is growing up, and it's a sense of hatred to the rich also grew up, which of course are very not healthy to China's economic development. And that is why we really have to do something serious about the implementation of the national treatment, or as President Xi said, we have to take them as our own people, and they are not outside, they are not foreigners. And I hope that we not only say it, but we have to do it. And so there are many things we have to do it. Now we are talking about the boost of the confidence of the whole society for the recovery of the economy. I think the key is the boost of the confidence of the private sector, because without the confidence on the part of the private sector, the consumption investment would be not high quality. This is what I understand.
From domestic economic development to regional development, there is RCEP or RCEP. This is a trade agreement among regional countries. It has been effective for more than 1 year. So what's the achievement? What's the tangible, visible achievement of the trade agreement over the past year?
Because RCEP, the so-called Regional Comprehensive Partnership Agreement, takes effect last year, and it is almost a miracle that during most of the protectionist atmosphere, 15 countries could come to an agreement as RCEP, including 10 ASEAN countries, China, Korea, Japan, Australia, New Zealand. It's not easy, because this is one of the biggest, or the biggest free trade agreement so far in the world. And it took place during the pandemic. So I think it's a miracle. It really boosted up the confidence of many countries and the people that globalization is still there. Free trade still has a chance. So the confidence building aspect of the RCEP sometimes is even more important than the actual benefit it has brought to the countries concerned. Of course, it has brought a lot of practical interest to the countries concerned. For instance, the change of the rule of origins, that you will encourage the countries within the region, within the agreement, to trade more among themselves. Because if you trade more, you could get lower tariff rate, even zero tariff rate. And also you can accelerate the manufacturers of these countries, ASEAN countries, China, Japan, Korea, all are very important for them to build up manufacturers. And RCEP can play a very important role in this aspect. And if the ASEAN countries can take the lead, we are very happy, because they have 500 million people, and it's a huge market potential. And its development will not only good for the region, even good for China. Of course, it will be good for the whole world. So RCEP is it's something that even I, as a trade expert, did not expect that we can reach, because we can very hard in the kind of atmosphere during the pandemic when the trade protectionism is so serious. It is almost impossible. So at that time, people ask me what is the expectation of us. I said it's mission impossible, and it proves.
But accomplished, yeah.
I'm wrong. I'm happy I'm wrong. That means trade liberalization, globalization is still deeply rooted in the countries concerned, and people still believe that trade liberalization and globalization will still be the main force of the world trade and the world economy. I think that gives some confidence, and of course the countries outside of the region could also make a kind of a judgment that whether they are doing the right thing, or we are doing the right thing. Make them think twice about it.
Speaking of globalization, some people say there's a retreat of globalization or deglobalization. What do you make of it?
The globalization come to a very complicated crossroad, because after the financial crisis of 2008, there's a turn down of the US and Western countries in their economy. They are coming down from the peak. Of course, we cannot say they are already become weak, but they start from their highest point. And this gradually they find that the economic order, the trade order, and the trade regime based on the rules of law are not beneficial to them. They feel a sense of insecurity. They feel that they are losing control of the world trade, while China, India, and other developing countries are trying to seize the opportunities, taking full use of the rules they dominated to make. So they lose confidence on the orders they made. And the developing world, on the contrary, have more and more confidence on this trade regime, including China. So now we are coming to a crossroad whether the trade regime, economic regime, or the economic order of the Second World War will continue, or the globalization in the past decades could continue, or it will be disappear, because United States and many major developing countries are losing confidence on the rules, on the regime they created. Mm-hmm. So there may be opportunities that the developing world can create a new regime. And some people say that the initiative, the Belt and Road, may start a new process of globalization, which dominated by the developing new emerging countries. But we still have to look at it. We will still have to look and see, wait and see. But I believe that now it is almost a mission impossible to make WTO and some other regimes work effectively again. But we still have to make efforts to save them, because we believe that it is the right thing to have a regime based on the rules. And when we are in the negotiation with WTO, with the United States, they always teach us that you have to follow the rules. You have to make sure that you treat all enterprises the same way. But it's really tragic to see the U.S. administration at this time to single out the enterprise from a country, to single out these enterprises, other enterprises, and put them at a discriminated status. It is horrible. It is a great shock for people like me which negotiated China stop taxation,
Right.
and we get familiar with all these rules, because the United States negotiators are my teachers. They taught us all these kind of rules, and now fundamentally they threw them out, and that's really tragic. But maybe I'm a little pessimistic, but WTO is still there. Maybe still a chance that will give some new boost to this organization, and I hope that United States will change their mind. They should not be so selfish, because these rules are made by them on the dominant positions, and they should not be just throw them away like that. It is unfair to the other developing countries.
Some have warned that the U.S. is pushing other Western countries to exclude China from the global production system, which they say is happening in 3 stages. First, there's a trade war, and second is decoupling, and the third is a reshaping of a new globalization, which will exclude China. Are you worried about that? Will that be successful?
I do not think that they could realize their target. A few months ago, I spoke to some foreign business leaders, basically from the United States. I told them, if you treat us like this 20 or 30 years ago, we are finished. But now it's too late for you to do that, because during the last 2 or 3 decades, China's size of economy grew so fast. So the size of the economy, the size of the population, the size of the middle class group, the size of a Chinese manufacturer, which is bigger than those of United States, Germany, Japan, Korea get together. Oh, we have such a big size of manufacturing, taking 30%, over 30% of the whole size of the world manufacturing sectors. So the size of economy, the size of the middle class, the size of Chinese manufacturers, it's not easy to just throw them out. Just like to cut off the relations with a country with such big size. And also through the globalization, China's economy through the supply chain and the manufacture chain has been deeply integrated with one another. It's not easily to cut off of this manufacturing and the supply chain. So the size of Chinese economy has decided that you cannot easily get away from China. You cannot. If it's in 1978, China's GDP is only 2% of the world GDP, you can throw out China easily out of the Pacific. So the situation has changed. And also, we hope to tell the United States that if you cannot beat us to death, if you cannot throw out easily, you'd better consider whether it's good for you to cooperate with us. And I believe that it's good for them to rethink about the other options instead of trying to contain and suppress China, but to change their attitudes of making a more compromising or even cooperative attitude. I think that would be better for them. It is their basic interest. We hope they change their mind.
And related to China-U.S. relationship or trade relationship is this tech war. You know, the U.S. has launched attacks on the Chinese companies, has banned the export of high-tech, high technology-based products or services to Chinese companies, for example, against Huawei and other Chinese companies. what's the impact of this, U.S. move on the Chinese development or on bilateral relationship?
I think it's really ridiculous for them to do that. And now they think that our vulnerable point is in high technology. It's true that there's a very long distance between China's high technology and the U.S. high technologies. And but you have to understand is that the high technology is a manufactured chain. And in high technology, you have to make high investment. To make a high investment, you have to get a higher return. If you want to get a higher return, you need a big market of the high product.
Like that of China.
That is the advantage of China. So if you get out of the market, there will be no return or very less return to sustainably support your research of high technology. So it's mutually linked. And we recognize in this manufactured chain of high technology, with several exceptions, U.S. is really in the top of the supply chain and manufacturing chain. We're in the middle and the lower level. I think that's a normal international division of work. We recognize that you enjoy your research, you get high profit. We work hard and we get something. We recognize that because this is a fact. It takes years for China to catch up with United States in this aspect. You don't have to worry. You just make this manufactured chain, this supply chain, comfortable to all parties concerned. So instead of disrupting this supply chain, which you get nothing, of which China will be hurt even worse. But whatever happens, United States will be also severely harmed. This is no doubt. So cooperation is still the only way to do that. And of course, China also trying to very hard to develop its own high technology. And China is Chinese are very efficient, very hardworking. And we believe, just like Huawei, we can catch up someday. We need time. But during this time of catching up, it's better for us to cooperate and not to trying to put us into a dead place. That's not in your interest.
Thank you, Mr. Lung. On that note, we conclude today's discussion. Many thanks to Mr. Lung. You can also find us on the CGTN app or on YouTube. I'm Xu Qinduo. Thanks for being with us. See you next time.